Arr, matey.
There's a party. Here's Bridgette in her blender. Glad she could make it.
And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus. Thank you for joining us on yet another outstanding Tuesday afternoon. The weather is fine, and so are things out in the field, and that's kind of where I'm at. So, got a little change up in things. Guys, do you want to do a quick rundown of the weather? Because our guest is there and ready to roll.
Yeah, we can do the weather later.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll hit it. We'll hit it in the next segment after this.
Well, that's the best part about having a guest that's this important. We just clear everything
Yeah,
for Levi Otis
doubt.
of Ellingson Drainage.
Just gonna send it.
Oh, Levi, good to see you in studio. He is one of our Here We Grow sponsors with Ellingson Drainage. I spent some quality time this morning by one of your drain tile pumps so we could get some video of it, and it wouldn't go until I drove away. So is there a tripwire I need that I can go up there and I can, push a button and make the pump go? Maybe you want to tell me that later off air.
Yeah, the farmer probably has game cams and make sure it's not running when the general public drives by.
Oh man, if somebody's messing with me.
Why is this crazy lady digging in my pump?
Yeah, we don't need any spotlights, he's thinking.
Why is she standing out there with a jar waiting to catch some water? Is she thirsty?
Yeah.
What is she doing?
He probably thinks you're the EPA.
Yeah, we're gonna unplug this one.
I am the anti-EPA in this situation.
Well, the good news is that water quality you're testing, I don't know what the crop is on it, but I'm sure it's probably at or right at drinking water standards by the EPA. Most of the studies we've done do that.
I was going to bring that up.
Okay.
We got a jar full out of from underneath the tile pump in the little pool, and it was clear. It was really nice and clean. So can everybody expect that anytime they're using drain tile?
Well, yeah. I mean, sure. It's probably going to look clear. It's obviously the soil filters out a lot of the nasty stuff. What you're going to catch if you do, like some of the studies that we've done, we've got about 13 or 14 pumps around the state, the valley, both Minnesota and North Dakota that we test, just keeping an eye on it. And it's farms that are owned by somebody very close to the company, so we have a great working relationship. One of those pumps, when we tiled right after corn, had an uptick of nitrate and then flattened out right away. Just almost like a whoosh. And then the other 12 lift stations, the water quality was pretty right. It was right there at drinking water quality. Now, I'm not saying you should go drink it. I'm just saying.
Boil it first.
Yeah. And part of the reason when I met with Minnesota Department of Agriculture, I asked that question because what we see in the I-states versus what we see up here for water quality is they have such a corn on soybean rotation in their soil so high on organic matter, it actually produces its own nitrate. That nitrate does leach with the water and then go downstream. Our company is working with Iowa State, North Dakota State on building water quality wetlands. You can engineer a wetland to do anything you want. So if you have a high phosphorus load, you can put in the right vegetation to reduce the phosphorus before it goes downstream. You can engineer it so that we clean the nitrates, the plants take those up, and then the excess water then rolls over the edge, and then that goes downstream. So Iowa State has studies showing that it's cleaning the nitrate up to 73% out of a denitrifying wetland. I call them water quality wetlands because no area is the same. You need a wetland to do this in one area that's going to be different than another. But back to my conversation with Department of Ag in Minnesota, they said because we have such large crop diversity up here in North Dakota, we do not see the water quality issues that you might in other places. Most of our water quality issues in North Dakota, western Minnesota, come from wind erosion, actually carrying soil sediment into lakes, rivers, streams. So the more tile we can get in the ground, the less work you have to do on the field, the more soil we can keep on the farm instead of in the air.
Right. And I think we're overlooking something here for a quick moment. If we can go back and define what tiling is, because I know we're all familiar with it, but a lot of our audience has no idea what tile is or why you'd have tile in a farm field. We're not talking about bathroom or kitchen tile. You want to tell us what is tile and what's the significance of that?
Well, for the urban listeners, it's going to be super simple, right? If you're driving by somebody's house and you see a pipe coming out of the back of the house, and then all of a sudden water's rolling onto the street, it's the same thing. We tile around your house, not bathroom tile or kitchen tile, but tile in your yard. It's so we can remove the subsurface moisture, right? And you're not going to get an erosion problem in your basement, right? We don't want water in your basement. Well, a farmer doesn't want water saturating his roots. NDSU's got some great studies on water saturation of roots. After 2 days of saturated soil, you lose up to 50% of your yield.
Wow.
So it doesn't take very long. Now, corn, like I suppose everybody went to the lake for the 4th. You're driving across farm fields, and then all of a sudden you come back and they're 4 or 5 feet higher than when you left for vacation. Corn loves water. Once those roots get established, corn loves water and it loves heat, right? Mm-hmm. So we can soak up a lot of that subsurface water. But if you don't have the tile to give it the air it needs to breathe in the beginning, the oxygen, that's where we're at.
Okay. And what percentage of farms have tile in our area?
In the Red River Valley, we have this conversation every year, making notes with the pipe companies. The 2 major pipe companies in the country are ADS, it's out of Ohio. There's one up in Buxton. They have a plant in Buxton. And then Prinsco, a family-owned company out of Wilmer, Minnesota. They've got a plant right in North Fargo. So most of the tile that you're seeing that come down this highway all the time are Prinsco. Mm-hmm. It's the gold stripe. So our meetings with them, knowing how much pipe we put in the ground, knowing how much they're selling, roughly 10% of the Red River Valley is tiled, and then just around 1 or 2% of North Dakota is tiled.
I see. What's the significance of tile on a field? What are you expecting to see on a tiled field versus a non-tiled field in terms of crop production or even return on investment?
Well, you should grab that video camera and drive right down the interstate, because from here to South Dakota, especially 2 weeks ago, you knew what farms were tiled and what weren't. It's incredible, the amount of ground that's getting put into prevent plant. Prevent plant is payment from the government because you're not able to get your crop in. So the tiled guys, they got their crops in. And I'm not saying it's never happened, PPing a tiled field, but it's kind of the whole point of it is to be able to get in and get your crop in. And because, as everybody knows, our springs are late and our falls are early, right? So we have short growing season, and that tile allows you to get in before all your other fields. And that's why guys don't do it just because they like me. You know, I got a lot of friends out there, but it's good math for the farm. So we're seeing a year like this, you probably pay for your system in 1 year, right? Just because of the amount of yield.
How much rain we had. I mean, we just drove out to our field today, and I drove past a few fields that are just black. There's nothing in them at all because they couldn't get into it, I'm assuming. Best
soil in the world, and we don't have a crop on it because it's too wet. Unbelievable.
So why wouldn't more farmers decide to use tile then?
Well, I think they do. We've got parts of the valley, the beach ridges, it's sandy out there, so they have other places they want. And some guys, they pick the worst field and tile it first. My boss is pretty notorious for saying, take your best field and make that the best one, because that's your highest crop prediction index, right? That is going to be your Cadillac field, and it is going to produce more money so you can keep going. It's a pretty capital heavy expense.
Yeah.
It's about
but like you said, I mean, it could pay for itself in one year.
But you're still stroking a check for $150, 150, 160 grand, or a couple $100,000. The prices of pipe have come down just a tish, right? So we're up to about $1,400 an acre here last year or so, and then now it's down to that $1,100,000. I've been seeing some of the bids come back at, so hopefully, but now nobody has any money. We've got $500 billion worth of farm debt for the first time in American history, and crop prices are awful. So if it's between tiling their field and paying a mortgage, I think mortgage is getting paid.
Good point.
Yeah. Most would probably.
Yeah.
So Levi and I had a conversation one day where we talked a little bit about the significant flooding that has happened, especially just a few weeks ago in southern Minnesota, et cetera. And when we return, we want to visit a little bit about drain tile and its effect on being able to help mitigate erosion. And I know this is an overly simplistic thought, but if you tile something, will it help with some of that water that was so fast moving and such a problem in so many areas across Minnesota? And we'll talk about that when we return. Stay tuned. More discussion with Levi Otis, Ellingson Drainage. We'll be right back. Well, thank you so much for returning to join us here on Weather and Ag in Focus. Oh, the fun that we get to have on this show, and especially when we have great guests like Levi Otis, who's joining us with Ellingson Drainage, because they're one of our sponsors for Here We Grow. They're helping make sure that we have a great corn crop. Justin and I were in the field just this morning. A couple other folks that have a hand in helping will be the Steffes Group. So if we decide to buy equipment, they'll make sure we're ready for it. They'd probably even sell us some land, whether or not it has drain tile on it. And Steffes Group needs the helping hand of Dakota Bank to make sure that we are well financed, just like they could do for you. Dakota Bank is one of the largest agribusiness lending institutions in the Dakotas, based out of Aberdeen, South Dakota. So Levi, I posed a question to you, and I know it's way too simplistic, but if folks have drain tile, does that help mitigate some of the flooding situations that happen down in southern Minnesota? Can it help supplement some of the older aging infrastructure we have? Just, I'm kind of leading to, can drain tile make it better?
Yeah, Okay, so you said a lot in there. Our infrastructure issues in this country are awful, right? Our ditches are, community mains. A community main or a community drain is tile that was put in across several farmers' land, right? And then they tiled into it all together. But if we're speeding up or slowing down the flooding process, only depending on your pipe diameter or the size, right? That's how much water can go through a pipe. So if you have an 18-inch wide pipe, that is going to move more water than a 6-inch wide pipe, but not as much as a 36-inch wide pipe, right? So people have to comprehend that when they're talking about, tile causes flooding or doesn't cause flooding, because it's actually built in, it's basically built-in breaks, right? Because only so much water can go through a pipe at a time.
Right.
What we like to see up here in the valley is when you tile your farm, do a lot of land leveling and reduce the amount of surface ditches. Now, we still need surface ditches, but if you tile it, you can allow more water to soak in, no different than the sponge, right? Bridgette, you, Sarah, I, Hans, everybody, we talked about the sponge effect a million times. If you put
Right.
a dry sponge in your kitchen sink, right, it's going to soak up water. You lift the sponge out of the water, and everything's going to drain out except the water that it's holding, right? And that's all tile does. We don't squeeze the sponge with drain tile, okay? It's just going to hold, it'll keep the water. We're just removing the excess. No different than lifting the we should have brought a basin. I didn't know I was going to be on camera. So. But we could do that a different day. But I think when you have these biblical rains like we did in southern Minnesota, the infrastructure is going to have to be updated, right? If you want to argue with the word climate change, well, the climate changes, okay? And if we're going to have hot, more extreme weather events, right, like a 1 or a 2 or a 3-inch rain, just the other night I got 3/4 of an inch of rain in my cabin. It was like nothing, right? Where it used to feel like it'd take 2 days to get 3/4 of an inch. So
Yes.
I don't know what those events are, but when you watch the banks eroding, or, a lot of these ditches weren't actually built to convey water either. They were built when it was dry, right? And so we need to invest in our rural communities. North Dakota is a great place to do it just because we have seen more significant rainfall than we did, prior to 85. So that's what I'm hoping, Bridgette, to answer your question. I think we can retain water with different projects. Wetland banks would be a huge way to do it. If we could build more wetland banks, those hold tremendous amounts of water that wouldn't have to go downstream all at the same time. Eventually it'll get there, but building wetland banks and building more water conveyance ditches, the engineers know, they don't have big buildings in this town for no reason. They know where the infrastructure needs to be updated. It just takes a majority in the Senate and the House and the governor to sign it. So I don't think we're too far away. I'm looking forward to the next session and seeing what we can work with Department of Water Resources and our ag community and do those things so we don't have another issue like we saw in southern Minnesota with their aging infrastructure.
Mm-hmm. I was wondering, because years of it being dry or back-to-back years of dry compared to a wet year, what's your trend in business in seeing more tile being put in? Do you see upticks in the years that it's more wet because more people are thinking about it or aware of, oh yeah, it's been really wet lately, maybe I should consider this?
Yep. So with that specific instance, yes, I would say so, because we give such a good deal for tiling prevent plant ground because there's no crop on it, right? Mm-hmm. So we can work and we can keep our guys working. So, I think you said you saw a field with black dirt. That guy called and said, yeah, right? So, hey, they have to get their permits in, right? Mm-hmm. So I know some watersheds are working with farmers expediting the permitting process away from the month and trying to get it to them in a few days, because as soon as that guy gets the tile in, now he can go in and put a cover crop and keep that soil on. But if he has to wait until August or September to tile, Well, now that thing just sits bare, right, until we can go in and tile it.
Right.
So it's just better to get it done right away and as fast as we can engineer it and put it in the ground. But we're jamming. We're having a good year. The only thing that's making everybody nervous is the commodity prices, and so we do have some projects that are tentative. You know, they were on the schedule as they're green, but you know the farmer wants to see, you know, if he's going to have the money, and
Right.
that's becoming a more frequent conversation.
So, Levi, there was something you mentioned, a wetland bank. Can you define that for us so folks are familiar with that term?
Yeah, so wetland banks across North Dakota, if you fly, you'll be like, "Holy cow, you guys are underwater." A lot of those wetlands are only you know foot deep, right? They're temporary, and so the farmer can farm through them, right? Which it's good and bad, right? He can farm through them. They're wet for a couple weeks out of the year.
Right.
Then you get a big rain, they fill up, they drown out your crop. But to tile them, they have setbacks. So you have to stay X amount of feet, depending on the soil type, the size of the pipe that you're using. Could be 150 feet, could be 200 feet. Wetlands that have easements on them with U.S. Fish and Wildlife, that's a whole nother conversation, but those are like thousands of feet. But with just a traditional wetland in NRCS, we can move those wetlands to a bank where we go and build other wetlands, right? Where you have all the prairie grasses and we build more wetlands. And so then the farmer can drain the ones on the quarter that he's farming, and then those will transfer perpetually to a wetland bank. We've got about 2 sections of wetland banks up north of Grand Forks, and one day we'll have to drive up there, Bridgette, and you could see it. But you know, all the waterfowl, the deer, the fox, it's like a wildlife sanctuary up there. And that's what we believe we should be seeing. We should be farming the ground we can and mitigating some of those issues somewhere else where they do have a benefit for wildlife.
I see. Levi, if somebody wants to get more information on drain tile in general or more about Ellingson, where would you direct them to go to get that kind of information or possibly get a quote to see what it might run them to get tile in their area?
Yeah, our
farm?
marketing team's done a good job with social media, bringing some of those videos up front. Like if you just go to Ellingson Companies on Facebook, or you go to ellingsoncompanies.com, we've got a whole bunch of stuff. We've got YouTube videos, of course, like everybody. If you wanted a quote, 701-893-9030. Most of the farmers probably know who we are. But even general public, call me up, 701-893-9030. If you want to go see a tiled field, if you want to go look at wetland banks, you know, I got all the time in the world. I just might be on the phone half of it, but I'll definitely take you somewhere. I might take you somewhere and show you how the process is.
I guess that leads into a question in a direction I hadn't thought of. Is it just farmland that you guys do work on, or do you do work on other kind of lands, or even someone's yard if they for some reason wanted it tiled?
Yeah, we do tile farmyards or places around rural housing, so to speak. We don't have a plow small enough to do anything in town. Usually that's dug in, but you know, like if you had a 4 or 5 acre farm, we have a little plow that does that, and we do a lot of places when they build new building sites, we go in and tile right beforehand, and then they bring in gravel and class 5 and all the other stuff.
I see. Cool. And again, what was that website again for anyone who wants to get more information from Ellingson Drain Tile?
Yeah, it's ellingsoncompanies.com.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Just type Ellingson Drainage into YouTube, and you'll see hundreds of videos of how it works. But like I said, before you blast us on Facebook, just call me, and I'll at least give us the first shot to clear up any misnomers.
Yeah, for sure. Well, appreciate it, Levi. Thanks for coming in and telling us a little bit more about it. If you have any questions, again, you can head over to their website, or you can give us a call. We can try and answer them as well. 701-293-9000 is the Red Wing Shoe line. We got to get caught up with local news, but we'll be right back with more of Weather and Ag in Focus.
And turn the mic on. It's about time. Welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. Justin would like to join us, but he's busy stuffing his face. So he's a little busy right now.
What are you eating? What do you guys got?
I don't even know what it is. It was sitting here on the table. I've had 3 pieces now.
You're randomly eating somebody's lunch. We don't even know whose.
It's not
Probably.
Jay's.
Okay.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
At least I'm not going to get hit.
You might. Oh,
Goodness.
man.
Hey, speaking of other, I think you said Janae, but it was hard to tell with all that food stuffed in your mouth. Remember that the coffee club has hijacked Jay's phrase that pays. So as you are listening, you can listen to the coffee club every Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 11. You'll hear Janae's phrase that pays, brought to you by Anderson Homes of Sabika. And later that day, listen to the Jay Thomas Show. And if you hear Janae's phrase and repeat it, then Jay can help you win $100. So I'm not eligible, so I'm not paying nearly as much attention as the rest of you should be.
Same. I tried to
believe
win.
it's
They told
Robert
me
Gibb
to
that
get
sent you.
lost.
Well, you should have used a fake name.
I did.
You did?
I came to pick it up, and they said get lost.
Well, you should have had, you should have shaved your beard,
Should have had my wife come and
put
pick
some
it up. Is what I should
some
have done.
phony glasses on,
My
and
mother-in-law, she had a different last name. I think I'm gonna start doing that from now
see,
on.
what are you thinking? Sometimes you got to maneuver around the system. Oh, Lord. How about we recap the weather here while Justin is having his lunch on company time?
There's a saying that goes along with that.
Partly cloudy skies for the rest of the day. We currently have temperatures in the mid to some spots upper 70s. We'll come close to 80 today, upper 70s to near 80, and a little cooler in the far northern valley. And we can't rule out an isolated pop-up shower or storm late afternoon and early evening. But again, it's not going to be very widely isolated at best, about 20% coverage. So most areas remaining dry. Tonight, clear things out and pleasantly cool night. Upper 40s to low 50s across the area. And a beautiful day tomorrow with sunshine, light winds, low to mid 70s. And then closer to 80 as we head into Thursday. Low 80s as we head into Friday. And the weekend we'll have mid 80s. And a slight chance of an isolated shower or storm both Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, nothing new there.
Yeah, if you have any outdoor plans for this weekend, I wouldn't really worry too much about it.
What count are we on for a weekend?
With no rain?
Hit or miss showers or
It's-
steady rain every Saturday and
It
Sunday.
seems like it.
All of them.
We've been stuck in that pattern.
Every single weekend.
Yeah.
Now, most of those weekends, for the most part, have been nice.
You've had many
but
dry hours.
Every weekend has had a chance.
Yep.
And the trend continues.
It does. Every weekend. But yeah, the next couple of days look really, really nice. So that's good news there.
Right on.
That is good news.
I got
Because
softball
I believe
tomorrow.
I'm in charge of mowing the lawn later today,
Oof.
which I prefer to do in road gear. So whatever happens at my house, people just drive by and go, "Oh, that looks fabulous."
There's a party. Here's Bridgette in her blender. Glad she could make it.
Lines are straight.
Oh, man.
That's right.
So, Bridgette, question for you. So, Levi was mentioning earlier about farm debt being at a record high. For the general public that is kind of wondering, well, why is farm debt at a record high? If the crops have been good, and so what's some of the reasoning behind the farm debt being so high?
Okay, there's a few things. First of all, our inputs are certainly going up and outpacing what we're seeing for profitability. When I say inputs, we're talking about things like fertilizer, crop protection products, but also we need to consider the cost of equipment. You know, with all of the supply chain hiccups we've had for the last 4 years, cost of equipment has truly increased tremendously. A lot of folks are not able to do some of the trade-ins, so they're spending more money on repair costs. You have to decide, is repair worth it versus doing a trade? Because new equipment, even the used equipment market, is still fairly high. Used equipment softens some. Then you've got poor commodity prices. You know, I'm looking at having, we were going to have Frayne Olson on Friday, but then the fair took over. So I look to have Frayne or one of our other marketing friends like Allison Thompson from the Money Tree on shortly to talk about why we're seeing such tanking in the wheat market. Same with sunflowers. Corn and soybeans aren't awesome right now, and we're looking at a fairly decent yield, but you can't always overcompensate yield if you have a poor commodity price. And we know interest rates have continued to climb.
Is part of that due to the weather in South America or the crops down there?
Well, as far as that commodity price is concerned,
Mm-hmm.
it's always a global influence, but realistically, even the fundamentals aren't explaining it very well why we still have such depressed prices. Most of us would probably say it has to do with politics more than
Well,
anything
that's
right
where
now.
I was kind of getting towards this whole question here. I was just kind of going the roundabout way.
Yeah,
So that would, you do believe that would be part of it?
I think it would be possible, and I think you'd have most traders tell you the same thing, that it's possible. I mean, I don't follow it close enough. I mean, I'm the kid who was at one time majoring in economics and realized this is hard. I'm not doing this anymore. So I got out of it. That was no longer my major after just 2 quarters. So I'm not the best one to market your crop. I can sure kill a lot of things in it, but I'm not really going to sell it great.
Well, there you go.
This is true. You haven't killed
Yes.
off anything in your garden yet, though.
Garden still looks pretty good. And okay, Justin, we were in the field together this morning.
We
What's your
were.
estimation on our corn crop? What do you think of it?
225.
For
All day.
bushels?
All day, 225.
All day. Okay, and we still want folks to go to our Facebook page and put in their yield guesses. You're more than welcome to do that. And for those of you who actively farm, there's a chance for you to win one of the grain gauges from IntelliFarms. We're going to give that away for those who are closest but not going over. For anyone else who gets close but doesn't go over, we do have one of our WDAY rain gauges from Productive Alternatives down in Fergus Falls, Minnesota. These are world class because they're even used by the National Weather Service. So we definitely want to encourage people to participate in that, give us their guesses. We saw some shredded leaves. Justin got to learn why that is.
Hail.
And it wasn't because, what did you call it, a pre-energy drink? That's not why they're shredded?
Oh, yeah, the corn wasn't shredded because, or it was shredded and it wasn't because of a pre-workout.
There you go.
A pre-workout
You're
mix.
gonna want to
C4.
watch. We found some very interesting things in the field. Tools, things to drink. It was fun.
We found a
What do you
saw.
What's that on our,
Where do you see our
Anderson,
video?
what's that on our live? What's the picture? Is that out at the field on our live stream?
Yeah, that was from the storm.
That was our
What
sign.
is that, Dean?
That looks like our sign, but for some reason it's not
It
properly.
It got beat up.
It did.
Wait. Who put that sign up?
Our management team was able to put that sign up.
Can we
and then
single out who put that sign up?
You're welcome too.
Oh, I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
Well, the good
Oh,
news
it
is
was
our
JT.
farmer team.
Oh,
Our
okay.
farmer team went and fixed it for us. So
There we
thank you to
go.
Trigby and Justin for making it look better. Yesterday, when we were out at their farm, Parker was able to provide Dean with some props for his farm safety discussion.
How was that, Dean? What did you learn in farm safety camp?
Don't stick your hand
And anything that
in
spins or moves?
in places that it shouldn't be.
Well, that's usually a good rule of thumb to follow.
But Bridgette had to say, "I dare you." So
Well,
$20 is $20.
And what did we learn?
Not to believe Bridgette and not to take
You
not
got
to
your
take the
$20
bet.
though, right?
I got the $20. I did.
Well, $20
And,
is $20.
and he wore his bandages back to town, hoping to get sympathy. I don't know if you were just racing around the grocery store looking for that or what.
I was speeding, and I figured if I got pulled over, then I could just say, "Hey, look, I've got to get to the ER. I am all bandaged up. I just hurt." So it got me home quicker.
Thinking another route here. Dean, after work, goes to the gym. Oh, I got in a nasty accident. Oh, let me buy you a drink. I'm so sorry.
Nice try. Yeah.
No, was that a
being
good?
out in
That
the
wasn't a good
field-
route.
No.
Maybe I thought that was
Nope.
kind of fun.
The field was a little bit tacky today because we got 2 inches of rain over the weekend on that field. And with the wind that bent up our sign, we also had a few stalks knocked down, but
For the most
Not
part, the
enough. They'll be
crop
fine.
looked good.
yeah.
It's tall. It's 6 feet.
It's not doing bad.
6 feet tall. And what was it 2 weeks ago? Like 18 inches?
Yeah. We've grown tremendously, and you even found a tiny cob out there.
Yeah,
I
we
mean, you're
found
actually
some
starting
cobs.
to see that. Yeah. And I look forward to the fact that this is going to keep progressing, and you can all follow along on our Here We Grow videos. One comes out sort of every week, it looks like,
Yeah, for the
and we'll
most
have
part.
those up for you to look at. Yeah,
Yeah, and you can
watch
just
and see what we're doing.
head over to the Facebook or YouTube page. It's just Weather and Ag in Focus.
That's right.
YouTube
Find
channel's
us
kind
there.
of starting to take off a little bit.
Well, please keep watching, everyone. We appreciate that very much.
Yeah, we really do. It's a lot of fun watching that thing grow. Well, we got a few ag topics to run down when we come back, as well as another check on the forecast. You want to be a part of this conversation, ask any questions. We got a few moments left of the show, 701-293-9000. You can always email us. That's weather or ag at flagfamily.com, and where you can watch us live. It's Facebook, YouTube Live, and Acres TV. We're going to touch a little bit about OSHA when we come back. What else do we got to talk about? Could drones replace ground sprayers? I think in some applications they most certainly could, and I think they'd probably do a way better job. So we'll touch on that in the forecast when we come back. And welcome back to the program. 151.27 right now. We got a rundown on that forecast coming up here in a moment. 701-293-9000. That's the Red Wing Shoe studio phone line. You can always email us as well. Weather or ag at flagfamily.com.
You know who we haven't heard from in a while?
Who haven't we heard from in
John.
a hot
John
moment?
hasn't called in a long time.
Oh no, he emailed me yesterday. It's
Oh,
fine.
okay.
You're good.
You know what happens. You
Wanted to
play
make
his
sure.
music and he shall call. That's fitting, right?
That'd be perfect. That's his own theme music.
Oh, man. Well, while we wait to see if John's even listening today, why don't we touch on one of our ag topics here? And this is a proposed OSHA rule, Bridgette. What is OSHA trying to get involved in now?
All right, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, also known as OSHA, which strikes fears into the hearts of many, and particularly
Listen
employers.
up, Dean.
That's tomorrow's topics you're covering here.
Well,
Today's not
we're jumped
Wednesday.
ahead on
Dude,
one.
don't worry about it, Dean.
Man, wake up.
Tomorrow we'll talk about how the hail damage happened.
There you go.
It took you guys a minute, but there, you got there. Okay, so OSHA, they've got a key proposal about heat standards, and here's what they want to do. This rule is to protect indoor and outdoor workers from heat-related disease and fatalities. It could potentially cover an estimated 35 million workers across the U.S. They're saying temperature thresholds of 80 degrees or 90 degrees. And I imagine that 80 degrees would be the indoor, 90 would be the outdoor. So, under the proposed rule, employers must have adequate hydration, designated break areas, implement acclimatization plans for workers to adjust to high temperatures, monitor for heat-related symptoms, rest breaks would be mandatory, periodic checks on solitary workers. Actually, there's a few states like California, Minnesota, and Washington who already have existing type regulations similar to the federal proposal. This is supposed to face opposition from businesses and industry associates. Concerns have been raised about its necessity. Feels like it's a bit redundant, as well as financial implications. And the rule has been in development for 2 years already. So far, the committee has voted for this to move forward unanimously. We'll see where it goes right now. Supposedly, this is an urgency because in 2023, a record 2,300 people from across America died in heat-related causes. And this rule may still be undergoing some changes before it hits a final stage. So we'll see where that goes, but this is being developed. How would it affect us? Well, what do you do when you have multiple employees and you're in ag? Somebody's going to have to go outside eventually. This could, in fact, be something that affects people, particularly in southern states. We'll see what it does for us.
It's kind of common sense, though. I would think many in the ag community would already,
Okay, so sometimes you got to be smarter than you just got to be smart. Okay, so when you go out to the field, you take water, you carry a water jug, you put on some sunscreen. Even if you're working outdoors where there's not a lot of heat or breeze, your body naturally says, I need a break.
Right.
And you'll do that.
You shouldn't need a law for that.
Well, I miss or overheard, didn't hear. Was this just for agriculture, or is this just wide spectrum in general? Because I know that there are a lot of employers that really don't care how hot it is. You go get the job done, and I've had employers like that before, where it's I don't care, just go get the job done. That's why I'm paying you to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Indoor, outdoor, like construction, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, even in kitchen work as well, where they, I think in kitchens, I believe there actually is a rule that your kitchen isn't supposed to hit some threshold of temperature. And if it does, you're technically in violation of that. But I mean, I've had to work in 135 degree kitchens several times during summer months just because there wasn't enough ventilation, and with how hot it was outside in combination with the equipment. I mean, your kitchen line where you'd be working in front of thermometers would read 160 degrees where you'd be standing.
Okay.
I mean, like not over it, but back away, it'd be 160.
Because I was curious how places like with great big open grills at the tables or that you are surrounding that grill and there's all that heat in there. They were one that I wondered about the indoor temperature and how that would matter. So in that situation, you can't shut down a restaurant. Do you just continually swap out employees at a faster rate?
No, you have adequate ventilation.
Rates.
So above all cooking equipment, you have a ventilation shaft that is supposed to pull a certain cubic foot of air through it based on how large your kitchen is or the equipment that you're using under it.
And that's OSHA regulated, isn't it?
It is OSHA regulated. However, it's not like somebody shows up and makes sure that your fans are sucking enough air out. I mean, you'd have to physically report it to OSHA for someone to come out there and do it.
And
but
I think
then
that's
you're the
where
snitch. I ain't no snitch.
the redundancy was called into concern by some opponents of it, saying we already have these rules. We are using common sense. So I can see where it could go both ways. There are those who don't have common sense and just want, as Justin said, just want to get the job done. So if we've already got a rule in place, I hate to see more regulation.
Right.
But also, this came out about the same time as that Chevron deference happened within the Supreme Court, which is going to prevent heavy overreach by multiple agencies. And so OSHA might be one of those agencies that is looked at and said, you have too far reach.
And remember, kids, like Justin said, snitches get stitches.
Yeah, that's right. Drop the chicken foot. That's my chicken foot story I didn't tell you guys last week. I don't have enough time to tell you it today. Remind me another time.
Chicken foot?
Chicken foot.
Okay.
You dropped the chicken
foot.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you know, you know. If you don't, look it up.
I'm just now curious if you were trying to cook the chicken foot, because I
No.
got it.
Just threw it down.
In some cultures, that's a delicacy. Like my great grandma thought chicken feet and gravy was a great thing. I had to have a conversation with her as to why that seemed weird.
Indeed, a little bit. In other cultures, it means something completely different.
I bet it did.
And that'll wrap it up for the show today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for letting us eat an hour of your day. We'll be back tomorrow, 1 to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Jay Thomas Show's coming up next.